what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight is going to be movie content. For tonight's video, we're going to go over all the movies I watched in the month of June and also July. We have a total of 11 films to talk about, so let's get started. So the first movie I watched in the month of June was Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. This is also the first movie I watched since moving in Philadelphia. This is a sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse, and it is about a guy named Miles Morales who gets bitten by a radioactive spider and turns into Spider-Man. And then we get to meet Spider-Mans all across different universes as well. This movie, where do I even begin? And it's a sequel, so it's like I can't get too deep into it because that means spoilers. My dog is in the way. Hi, cutie. Oh, okay, hello. But let me tell you, this movie made it to my top 10 of the year. It was 2.5 hours long, and I was engrossed the entire time. It is one of the best movies I've ever seen narratively, and it's also the best visually. I'm still blown away with how this movie incorporates different animation styles into it. Just like the first one, how there were different styles, this one does it as well. Like one of the villains you see in Gwen's universe in the beginning. To this day, I still don't understand how they did it. I just don't get how you could take all these styles and put them into one movie and it just works. Speaking of visuals, I am absolutely obsessed with how Gwen's universe is animated. It looks like a painting and all the colors depend on her mood. And if you want to study color theory in a film, this is the perfect film to do it, specifically for scenes in Gwen's universe. I think this movie was an excellent exploration of the themes of fear, acceptance, and independence. Absolutely banger soundtrack, especially that end credit song that's probably going to show up in my top 5 on Spotify. And this movie did not end the way I thought it would. I thought it was going to have a very, and that's a good thing, because I thought it was going to have a very corny ending. Like the moment they mentioned it in the movie, it like clicked in my head. I'm like, yep, that's how it's gonna end. And then it didn't, and my jaw was on the floor, and I cannot wait for the next movie. It may take years because I know they're pushing back a lot, especially with the strike and just the working conditions from this film alone. I'm willing to wait years because we waited like 5 years for this one, and it definitely paid off. If waiting years means the third movie is gonna have the same quality as this movie and the one before it, I'm fine with that. I am all for it. So 5 out of 5 stars. So the next movie I watched is part of my Oscars adventures. If you're new here, I'm trying to watch every movie that won for Best Picture at the Oscars. So I watched the Broadway Melody. I believe this came out in 1929 and therefore won in 1930. This is about a group of people who are trying to enter the showbiz, and it's also not a silent film. So I could see why it won. The technical aspect was pretty good, especially for back then, seeing all the dances and just seeing all sorts of performances. However, I thought this movie was incredibly boring, so the last film we talked about made my top 10. This made my bottom 10. I only gave this film like 2 out of 5 stars, and that's all I have to say about it. Just that it was boring, and I actually don't remember much from it. I went to go see a Pixar movie in theaters, so that means I watched 2 movies in one sitting, because I do count shorts as their own movie. So the short for this film was called Carl's Date. This is about Carl from the movie Up, and he is going on his first date. This was really cute, and it made me cry, and I really like how, I liked how they handled Carl's love life. Like, yes, he's willing to meet new people, and he's very excited for this date, but they did it in such a way where it's clear he still very much loves Ellie. And nothing gets me like old men loving their deceased wives, and oh my god. 3.5 out of 5 stars. This was a short for the film Elemental. This Pixar film takes place in the world of the 4 elements. Each have their own section of town. Wade, who is water, and Ember, who is fire, fall in love. This is the Zutara I have been needing since I was 12 years old watching Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time. This movie, my friends watching the Attack on Titan finale, oh my goodness. But anyway, this movie is so cute. It's one of the cutest films I've seen this year. It also made my top 10. I watched a lot of good movies in June. I truly think the advertising for this film did this movie so dirty. First of all, there was hardly any advertising, and what little there was made this out to be another Zootopia, when that's not really it at all. Yes, it talks about, yes, it has the themes of discrimination because the fire people are outsiders in this community, and you know, water and fire, it is a mixed race couple coming together. But I didn't find that to be the main theme of the story. If anything, this is just a straight up love story, and it's a beautiful, fun love story at that. Ember was super relatable, and Wade is so precious and funny, and wholesome. I actually really liked that he wasn't some like macho guy and he was super laid back and corny, because I thought it fit really well with Ember's fierceness. And it is kind of opposites attract, not because they're just fire and water, but the creators did well playing off of that, because Ember, she reacts to things very quickly, she doesn't think about her actions, whereas Wade, he wants to think first before reacting, and he's also significantly more laid back than Ember is, and they complement each other very, very well. The chemistry between these two characters was out of this world. And not only the love story, but I really like seeing Ember's family dynamic as well, how she got along with her parents, what they expected of her, how she reacted to that versus what she actually wanted to do. So I thought that was handled very well. And because it's Pixar, I fucking sobbed in the theater. Absolutely do not do what I did. Do not watch this movie if you're single and a hopeless romantic. These two loved each other so hard, and God, when is it my turn? I went to a full theater. There was actually not a single child, surprisingly, because I went early in the day. I went at like noon in the summer. But everyone in that theater was an adult. I was the only one who went single. Everyone around me was in a pair. And while they're all oohing and eyeing, I was fucking sobbing in my chair. I was hiding my face, making sure people didn't see. I was sniffling. They loved each other, you guys. If you haven't seen this and want a cute, fun love story, please watch this. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Also, the animation is out of this world. Next, I watched a short National Geographic documentary about the Titanic called Drain the Titanic. In this documentary, a bunch of researchers use computer work to drain the Titanic, meaning take all the water out so they can explore the structure and study how she sunk. Admittedly, I watched this due to the current events at the time. If you guys remember, I cannot believe this was in 2023. So much happened. It feels like 20,000 years ago. But this was around the time this whole submersible shit was happening. One of my special interests is Titanic, so like I was like, oh my god, I have to watch everything about it. It was informative. It was kind of cool. I got bored, so I ended up giving it 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's also very, very dramatic. It's for something so simple. The narration style was too dramatic. It's in the style of those early 2000 documentaries on the History Channel where they would consistently say the title of the documentary before commercial break. That's clearly when it came out, because the narrator would say, as they take the water out to drain the Titanic, and then it would fade to black, meaning there was a commercial. So it got a little much. I just give me the facts, don't put on a whole show. Also, but funny enough, one of the dudes who died on the submersible is in this documentary, which I watched this before finding that out, so that threw me for a loop when I saw that on the news. My friend's crying over Attack on Titan. Hello, Carmine. Let's talk about the next movie. So I was on a documentary kick when I first moved to Philly because I lived in an empty apartment for a month waiting for my furniture to come in, and for some reason I wanted to save like my fictional TV shows until I got a proper TV to watch it. So I watched a bunch of documentaries. Drain the Titanic was one of them, and then the next one was Empire of Dreams, the story of the Star Wars trilogy. This 2.5-hour long documentary chronicles the making of the original trilogy, and this was extremely informative. I learned a lot about these 3 movies. Talk about trust the process. The very, very first movie had everything against it. The actors thought it was ridiculous, like they all essentially took it because they needed a job. The only one, from what this documentary said, the only one who took the process seriously was George Lucas, and oftentimes people thought he was being too serious about it. Like, they thought he was taking himself too seriously. So Star Wars Episode 4 is the definition of trust the process, because I feel like that movie should have turned out terrible, and it's actually amazing how amazing the movie ended up being. What are you doing? I really did enjoy this documentary though. My only wish is that each movie had an equal amount of time in the documentary. Episode 4 got the most attention and very little was on episode 5 and 6, unfortunately. But I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I watched Asteroid City. This movie is a play within a play. There's a play going on, and the play itself is about a group of people who go to like a science fair camp thing. I really enjoyed this. This was very fun and quirky. I was laughing out loud in the theater. The whole theater was laughing out loud, so it got a positive response, at least in my theater. I love the color palette of this. I love the symmetry. I love how he does symmetry. It makes everything so aesthetically pleasing. But I definitely need to rewatch this though, because I feel like I missed something, but I cannot tell you what that something is. But I ended up giving this film 4 out of 5 stars. And the last movie I watched in June was a rewatch, and that is The Patriot. I watched this because where did I go? I went to the National Constitution Center, which is a museum here in Philly, and it made me feel at one with my country. So I was like, oh, I need to watch something that deals with the Revolutionary War. So I decided to watch this. This is when Mel Gibson joins the militia during the American Revolution. And you know what? There's a bunch of historical inaccuracies in this film, but I don't care. It's still fun. And the scene with his daughter still makes me cry to this day. The first movie I watched in the month of July was Neona. This takes place in a fantasy world, and it's about a guy who gets wrongly accused of something, and he gets banished and meets a shapeshifter named Neona. This is a very fun, adventurous film with beautiful animation. It's that style where it's like a mixture of 2D and 3D, and I thought they did a really great job with that. And not only was it fun, but I think they did a good job making this an allegory for being trans, because I know the author of the comic book is trans. Multiple times throughout the film, they would ask, are you a girl or a boy? And she would just angrily say, I'm Neona. And there's also like a big theme with her feeling ostracized from her community, feeling like she doesn't belong anywhere, constantly being casted aside. And I really like the twist at the end. I like how that was all handled. I thought this movie was really cute, and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I watched my favorite movie of 2023, and that is Barbie. This is about Barbie, my favorite toy when I was a kid. We get to see her in Barbie land with these Barbie dream houses. We get to see her in the human world, how she deals with that. We love feminism. Ryan Gosling did a great job as Ken. Love the costumes. I love everything about this movie. The set designs in this film were insane. When I saw the life-size Barbie dream houses, I was so jealous, immediately wanted to live in Barbie land. Like, it was my dream to have some of the houses my dolls had growing up. I love the costumes. The costumes were super gimmicky, but given that it's Barbie, it worked so well. It very much captured the essence of the toy. I love the humor in this film. It's very corny and satirical, but extremely self-aware. And that's my favorite type of comedy. And because it's so self-aware, like, the whole point of this movie is not subtle at all. It is very in your face. Oftentimes things could be a little on the nose, which is so funny because there are people still missing it, screaming, crying, and throwing up about it online. Do you guys remember those tantrums people were throwing about how their masculinity is threatened by this movie? Y'all need to go outside and touch some fucking grass and learn how to have fun. But the reason this is my favorite film of the year is just how validated I felt, because a big theme with this movie is feminism and what it's like to be a woman in society. And yes, America Ferrera's speech could be corny and something we've heard over and over again, but sometimes it is nice to be reminded and to know that there are other people out there who feel the way you do. I cried watching this. There were multiple scenes actually that made me cry. And it's funny too because like a few days later I was at work just jamming to the soundtrack, and that alone made me cry. I'm like holding a rat, just like sobbing in this room, and my coworker was like, are you okay? This movie felt like a hug, and I don't know, but something about it just told me everything was going to be okay, which I was absolutely not expecting from this film. I actually had an existential crisis from this film. I'm so glad I didn't watch this earlier in the year when I was going through a major depressive episode, because I would have been a hot mess. I would have been a hot mess on the floor just sobbing. Someone would have had to escort me out of the theater. And it's just so funny because I did have a Barbenheimer weekend, and if you told me back in January of this year that the movie out of Oppenheimer and Barbie, if you told me Barbie was going to be the one to cause an existential crisis, I would not have believed you. I went into this thinking it was going to be some dumb fun about my favorite childhood toy. I left the theater wondering, you know, what was I made for? What is my purpose? It's a great movie. I cannot wait to rewatch this. Favorite movie of the year, 5 out of 5. And like I said, I had a Barbenheimer weekend, so the last movie I watched in July was Oppenheimer. This is the true story of the man who created the atomic bomb. So I didn't watch this just for the Barbenheimer meme. I was actually interested to see this movie from the beginning because I love a good World War II movie, especially a good biopic. So I was excited to see this, especially because I wanted to see how Christopher Nolan would handle the atomic bomb. Knowing him, I knew damn well he wasn't gonna praise the guy, but I still wanted to see that in film form. The first 2 hours of this movie were great. I love learning more about Oppenheimer as a person, the process of how the atomic bomb came to be and how they decided where to put it. And I think the most interesting part of this film is how horrific he portrayed how horrific that event was without actually showing anything. Because we always talk about show, don't tell, but this is one of those instances where telling worked above showing. And also, you guys, this has nothing to do with the plot of the movie, or like, it does have to do with why I like the movie, but it has nothing to do with the plot. but this actor I have the biggest celebrity crush on, Josh Hartnett. He's in this movie. He's so fucking hot, and they made him a professor. Oh my god, the hot professor. He showed up on screen and I had to pretend to be normal. I was seeing this movie, one with the cousin I saw Barbie with, but also some of his friends who I've never met before, and I'm like, oh my god, they can't know I'm a fucking weirdo and like want to marry this man so badly. He was so hot. And yeah, he adds to why I like the first 2 hours of this film. Having said that, the last hour was a little rough for me. I ended up giving this movie 3.5 out of 5 stars, and it was because of that last hour. It unfortunately was a bit of a slog for me. When I got into like the court proceedings, it was weirdly interesting because I didn't know that the country, because at first, like, I knew Oppenheimer was hailed as a hero when the bomb first dropped, but I didn't know that we essentially turned our backs on him. So the scenes about him specifically there in the last hour, that was interesting because that's what I wanted to see. I went to go see a movie called Oppenheimer, so I wanted to see scenes with Oppenheimer. But like, what's his face? Robert Downey Jr.'s character weirdly became the main character in the third hour, and like, I understand why. I understand the choice. I understand why we had to focus on him specifically. But again, I went into a movie called Oppenheimer. I wanted to see a movie about Oppenheimer. Focusing on RDG kind of took it away for me. And because of that, the third hour was honestly super hard to get through. I was getting super antsy. But Cillian Murphy, he deserves an Oscar for that very, very last shot alone, because just in like 5-10 seconds, Christopher Nolan and Cillian Murphy were able to show the fear and the horror that Oppenheimer felt over what he created. So even though that last hour was hard for me to get through, I think this movie ended on a perfect note. Again, I gave this movie 3.5 out of 5 stars. And that is it for this video. Let me know down below if you guys seen any of these movies, what movies you guys watched over the summer. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Without further ado, I'm gonna peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao, tutti.